Hey guys, welcome back to Kelly's Creations. I'm so glad you're here. So today's video is part one of a two-part series. And we're going to go back to minis. You guys love minis, so I'm going to do another one. This is going to be a shadow box country rustic kitchen. So I purchased the shadow box from Marshall's. It was on clearance. I paid $3.50 for the box. And I took off the back, and this is going to be the box that we're going to, well, the backing is going to be what we're going to build on and then fit it back in the box. So I started with a popsicle stick to get the measure of the little lip that goes all the way around. And then I just use the side of the popsicle stick to draw lines. That way I have a guide to not go past these lines because then my whole project would not fit in the box. Now, this probably isn't a conventional way of measuring, but it worked for me. And you're going to see a lot of unconventional ways of measuring in this video. So it all works out in the end. You do you. If you love measuring tapes, which I hate, go for it. Do it the right way. But I kind of have my own way of measuring, as you'll see. So right now I just put it back in just to make sure that my lines didn't come further. And then we got rid of that carrot. But I'm not going to throw it away because we have to save everything in case we need it for future projects. So what I'm going to do to get rid of this bunny trail is, my voice is going, I'm so sorry. Paint inside that box. I'm going to paint it all black. I'm painting it all black because I think that black is a perfect base coat, of course. It's not going to stay this color, but it hides what you want to cover up, and it's the perfect base for what I'm going to be putting on it. If you were going to, of course, put like scrapbook paper to make wallpaper, you could skip that step. So here's my fancy measuring again. And what I'm doing is putting the popsicle in to get the depth of the box because I don't want to build my countertop / stove higher than the depth of the box because again it wouldn't fit. So yeah, if you want to use measuring tape, of course use measuring tape, please. Now to do the sides of my cabinet, I'm just going to use shims. I love the texture on shims. I think it's real rustic country, and that's what this kitchen is all about. Like you were in deep woods, down south, old school, rustic country. Right now, I'm just drawing a line across each shim, and that's going to be the height of the cabinet, which I just eyeballed how tall I wanted this cabinet to be. So now using my fancy little table saw, which I absolutely love, that my husband got me for Christmas. This thing is amazing. It was worth the money. I use it a lot. And look how easy it cuts through that shim. Oh my gosh. So I cut both of those side panels, and now we're going to work on the front. For the front of my cabinet, I am just going to use these wood planks from the Dollar Tree, and it is the perfect width. I only had to trim a little bit off of the edge and a little bit off of the length to get it to work perfect. So I'm just, of course, using my shims. I need to invest in a ruler, huh? And then I'm going to go back to my little table saw, and I am going to cut down where I had the line. Great thing about this little saw, and I'm not sponsored or nothing. I'm just showing you guys that this was a really cool little gift I got. You can see there is measurements at the top and the bottom, so you can use that to make the perfectly straight line. So now we got the front of the cabinet all cut out. I'm going to use craft glue, which I don't know. I kind of had a love-hate relationship with that glue. For video purposes, of course, hot glue is where to go. As far as longevity, though, I would rather have this piece not fall apart after a while. So, yeah, glue E6000, what's that? Tacky glue is probably better. But the problem is it just takes a while to dry. And yeah, I didn't have that kind of time. This project already took me 2 days to make. And waiting on glue to dry, I just didn't have the patience. So now I am cutting the top of my cabinet. First, I cut off the edge, and now I'm just using the cabinet to draw some lines so I know how, and I just lost my train of thought. So I know what the width is on it. So now I'm going to go back to my saw and I'm going to cut that final piece, and this is going to be the top of the cabinet. These are so easy. Oh my gosh, so easy to make. And I didn't put any measurements because everybody, you might find a different size shadow box. You might want your cabinet taller or wider. I mean, basically it's fits to your needs and the type of box you're doing this for. So you're going to see me do this a lot where I go back to the box because I want to make sure I didn't mess up and that my box will still close. But I did mess up because I didn't allow 4 drawers. I wanted to cut pieces of popsicle stick and put them on the face of the cabinet for drawers, and I didn't. This fit perfect, so my wacky measurements were correct, but I didn't allow for drawers. So I pulled it all apart. I went back to my saw and I trimmed it down so it wouldn't be as wide. So I had to trim basically everything, I think, but nope, I had to trim the top too. Yeah, I had to just everything but the face of it because the length was fine, the width was bad. So I had to trim the sides and I had to trim the top, just taking a little bit off. And now I went back to my glue gun so this thing would stay together. And now I have my cabinet. I again put it back on, put my cabinet over it, and I have a gap now. So I know that I can put my drawers. This is a learning curve, I don't build things that much, and it was kind of hit and miss. Sometimes I had to go back and fix things. I wanted to show you guys the process. It's not always perfect, but you can make it work. Now that little piece I cut is in kind of trim, I guess you would call it. And it's going to cover that gap where the top and the front meet. So I just cut a little piece of trim and I hot glued that to the front. So now you don't see that gap any longer. So now we're going to cut the piece that is going to be the stove top. And I just took a fatter popsicle stick and eyeballed how big I want my stove. And for this, I just used my hand cutter to cut that piece. I do, and I don't show this in the video, but I do have a sanding block next to me and I do sand the edges. I also, with the drawers, go back to my saw and I use the sander on the saw to sand and make those edges smooth. For the drawers, I'm eyeballing again. I'm just cutting one big drawer and 2 smaller drawers. Now, this part of my saw is so cool because it has a sander that you can turn on and zoop, 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 and you have sanded your piece. Saves a lot of elbow grease of rubbing it on that sanding block. Now, for quick sanding, of course, I'm not going to pull out this machine and set it all up. But for when I have a lot of pieces that I want sanded, this little sander on here is amazing. So now I got the cabinet together. I have all of my pieces cut and sanded. And now I'm going to come in with some really skinny craft sticks. These craft sticks are what I'm going to use to make the door to the oven. So I'm kind of seeing, I want it to be the same width as the stovetop, and that door is going to go right underneath the stovetop. So those skinny craft sticks are perfect for framing my door. So I just drew the lines on them of how big I wanted my door and cut them with scissors. Right now I'm making sure that it all lines up and coming in to cut the width now. And I'm just eyeballing it. Of course, you guys know. Like I said, I did have a sanding block next to me. And for these little bitty sands, it's perfect just to take it and smooth those edges where you cut it. Okay, so this is the bag that the craft sticks came in. And I'm going to cut a square out of the bag. And that's going to be the window for the oven door. And I thought that it would be much easier to cut that piece out of the bag and lay it down and glue the sticks to the piece and then come in and glue the sticks together. I know that might seem backwards, but man, this was so much easier than trying to put glue holding onto the stick and lining them up, and where I could just put glue on the back, glue this to that plastic bag, and I had my structure in place and I didn't burn my fingers, which I do almost every weekend. So yes, that was nice. So I glue 4 sticks down. Then I will come back and I will cut off the excess of the bag so that none of it is going past the oven door. This will all make sense in a few minutes. I promise. So now, of course, they're not glued to each other, so you just bend it and you don't have to burn your fingers, and then put it back into place and the wood pieces glue together. So easy. Oh my goodness. I do suggest using a hot glue gun with a really fine tip for these little bitty projects. So we got it all glued all together. I just come in with my scissors and I trim around the box, cutting off the excess bag. And now we have the perfect little glass window or fake glass window for my oven door. I like to come in and just make sure that everything is working. So I grab my piece and I put that oven door down and make sure, that what I have in my head is going to work on the piece. So that top piece is the stove top. And that is exactly how I want it. So now I can come in with my hot glue. Like I said, you guys probably would want, you have a little bit more time to put this together. I kind of have to do my videos on the weekend and I'm really crunched for time. So hot glue really works better for me, but craft glue or super glue, of course, that would work on this project as well. So I glued down my stove top and it matches perfect with the oven door. I am going to put my drawers on first. So I kind of went little to big. That one was a little bit skinnier than this one. As you can see, there's hot glue on it already because I did this and put the fatter one up top by accident. So I'm fixing it right now. And of course, the bigger drawer will be on the bottom. Great thing about Rustic Country is they don't have to be perfect. Rustic Country is all about imperfection. I think the more imperfection you have, the more rustic it looks. And I love that look. If you want perfect, probably you would do a modern kitchen, not a Rustic Country one. So I grabbed the shim that I used earlier, and I thought that would make a great cabinet door because of the lines in it and how it looks like an old piece of wood already. So I thought that would be great to put on there as my cabinet door. And I glue that to the side of the piece. The piece is coming along very nicely. I'm very happy with how this is looking. I love that little cabinet door, that it's different than the drawers. And because I have those pieces on, if I put this oven door on there the way it is now, it would not be the same thickness as my drawers and my door. So I'm just taking a couple little popsicle sticks and gluing them on the edges. That way my oven door will stand out kind of the same width as the drawers in the door. So I'm just adding a little height to my door. So I'm going to set that aside. I'm going to grab my air dry clay. I wanted to have a stone wall on this piece, and I also wanted a shelf with two stone, I don't know what they're called. Are they called corbels? The pieces that hold the top of the shelf. Mine look like shoes. Yes, I understand that. I don't need y'all saying they look like shoes in the comments, so we're going to fix that. So right now I'm just making a little shelf by putting 3 popsicle sticks together and gluing 2 smaller pieces of popsicle stick that I cut down to hold the 3 sticks together. That's going to be the top of the shelf. Now, like I said, I have a stone wall, so I wanted the shelf to be on some kind of stone little structure. So I take those little shoes I made. Well, first I'm going to put everything back on there and make sure that this works, that I didn't make it too tall and that the width is okay, which I'm going to fix later, and that I like it before I go through all of the process of making a shelf and then I don't even like it. So what I decided was to take that clay and kind of smash it on top of those 2 little pieces of wood and use my fingers to round it out. I come in with a tool. I'm really new to like trying clay, so I really need to practice. Practice makes perfect. Then hopefully later down the line when you guys see my videos, I'll be much better at this. So I should have never used hot glue. I used hot glue here because I wanted it to stick to that shelf so that I could use my fingers and some clay tools to come in and smooth it out and it wouldn't be moving all around on me. But hot glue and clay don't really go together. So you could use the hot glue to do this part, but it's going to fall off. So you're going to want, once you have it all in place, to super glue it or use craft glue, some kind of glue other than hot glue, to attach this little stone structures to your shelf. For the other side, I'm going to do the same exact thing and try to get these as similar as I can. And like I said, I'm going to keep practicing with clay, but even though it doesn't look like much right now, once it's painted, it really comes together and you'll see that.
In a gown and a crown, barefoot, have me running around, dressed in a gown, barefoot.
Okay, so with a little tweaking and smoothing, I have it pretty much how I wanted it to look. So now I'm going to go back again. It's good to keep putting your pieces where you want them. to make sure it works. You don't want to invest a lot of time, and then when you go to put it all together, you don't like the final project because it doesn't work out the way you wanted it to. So that's why you keep seeing me going back and forth. So I like that. So now I'm going to draw a line with a pen where the top of my cabinet is. And from that line to the top is where I'm going to do my stone wall. Now, again, I messed up because I'm new to clay, and I knew I wanted to just make a bunch of little stones and attach it and then come in with my tool and flatten them out. And at first I used hot glue, and I think because I didn't know it wouldn't work. I found that out later when that piece fell off of the shelf. So right now you see me using hot glue on a couple of these, and then thank goodness I didn't want to glue every single piece. I wanted this to go a little quicker. So I do come in with my craft glue, and you're going to see me put craft glue down and put the rest of the stones on there. Now, these two stones that I glued with the hot glue did fall off, and I had to re-glue them with craft glue, or 3 stones. I'm not sure how many I ended up doing with the hot glue before light bulb went off. I used craft glue. So I just took this little round tool and flattened them out. Not totally flat. You want ridges. These are supposed to look like stone. Man, I did 4 of them down there with the hot glue. I did fix it. It's all good. Now they're not falling off. Here I come in with my craft glue now. And this craft glue is just from Dollar Tree. And I put a whole bunch of craft glue down, and that way I could do this process a lot faster. So you're going to see me just start rolling balls, putting them where I want it, and then coming back in with that tool and smashing it down a little bit, but leaving ridges just like stone would be.
Have me running around in a gown and a crown, barefoot. Have me running around dressed in a gown, barefoot.
Okay, so I have all of my rocks on there from my Rockwell. Of course, I'm going to grab the shadow box and I'm going to set it in on top of it and see if I went over. There was just a little bit, so I took that little tool and I cut off one of the rocks just so I wasn't going to regret it later and it not fit. So right now you see me putting the oven door on there, and I'm just using my pen to make 4 lines where that door is going to sit. So I'm going to come in with my black paint, and I am going to paint a black box on here. Yes, I am using a Q-tip. Any crafter knows, like when you're, oh my gosh, I'm so tired of washing brushes. I don't know about you guys, but it's like never ending me washing brushes. So I got this pack of Q-tips from Dollar Tree. You get a whole bunch of them. And for these small little areas, I would much rather use a Q-tip and throw it away when I'm done. So right now I'm using my heat gun. And see how I got really close, which makes the paint bubble. And I thought that was the perfect texture that you would see like for inside of an oven. So I'm just trying to make this like look realistic and be textured. I'm also coming in with my metallic in silver, and I'm going to dab that on using the Q-tip. And I'm going to leave a little bit of black, but I'm going to dab that silver, and this is going to be what the inside of the oven looks like. What I love about minis is you can just let your imagination go wild, and you'd be surprised at what you come up with. I go over that again with my heat gun to make those bubbles, and I'm loving what it looks like for the inside of the oven. So now I'm going to grab my Rockwell, which I had drying, and I'm going to come in with different colors and try to get them to look like rocks. I'm going to use brown, I'm going to use silver lining, I'm going to use pewter, and I'm going to use a gray, darker gray, and I'm coming in with my Q-tip and dabbing the paint on. My clay isn't totally dry right now, and I did that for a reason because I've only done a few projects with clay before, but it tends to crack sometimes, which I thought would be a cool effect for a rustic country rock wall. So you're going to see me come in with the brown and kind of just randomly color different stones. And then I come back in with that darker gray with the silver and just blend until I have this part of it done. I am going to come in part 2, and you're going to see me go over this again to really blend all these pieces in. Right now I'm getting some paint on this, and then I'm going to let this dry overnight. Oh, I come in with white too. I'm going to let it dry overnight, and hopefully I get those little cracks in it, and which I think would really make this look realistically like a stone rock wall. So once I have that the way I want it, I set that aside, and I grab that little shelf because I want to use the same colors on the rock underneath that wooden shelf. So I come in with brown, I come in with the silver, with the gray, and I add that as well. And I also take the brown and I put it on the bottom of the shelf. Here I'm using, I think, Waverly Antique wax, and I'm coming in and painting the oven door. I'm also going to use that antique wax, and I'm going to paint the whole structure with it. Now, I am very, very heavy-handed with this, and this is for a reason. The top of this piece is going to mimic a wood top. I'm going to keep this brown on here. Now, I'm using the antique wax kind of like a base coat, but I'm very heavy-handed on the top, and you'll see why when it dries. Now, for the rest of the piece, like I said, this is my base coat, and I'm using this wax to paint the whole front of the piece. I was going to paint the sides, but the sides are going to be like up against that wall. You're not going to see the sides. Now, I do turn this piece a lot to make sure I get into all the cracks and crevices on the front. So you do see me like turning it around, and I suggest whenever you're working on a project to flip your piece. Flip, flip, flip. You will find something that you missed. Guaranteed. I always do. And I probably could have used a paintbrush here, but you know what? I was like kind of happy that I could use this Q-tip and throw it away and not have to wash a paintbrush. So yeah, it didn't take me that long with the Q-tip. And I'm going to put this brown wax on the whole front of this. It's already looking so rustic right now. I absolutely am loving this and the way it's turning out. Okay, so once I get into all the little cracks and crevices and I have a nice base coat, I come in and do the top of the shelf with that Waverly wax again. being, again, a little heavy-handed with the wax. I'm not wiping it off afterwards because you'll see when it dries, it really, really gives that wood grain look. Because where it is darker on there and I keep dropping it, it dries that way. So that worked out perfect. My little door works perfect where you can see the inside of the oven. My rock wall is drying nicely. I'm really liking the cracks that I'm getting in it. And I set it totally aside. We're going to just let that dry. So now I'm going to be using black, silver lining, pewter, dark gray, burnt umber, a beige, and then that is Waverly chalk paint and maize. And look at the way that top dried. It really gave it a wood grain look, and that's exactly what I was going for the top of this piece. So first I'm going to come in with the black, and I am going to paint my stovetop in black, and then I'm going to come back in with the metallic, which I don't know if I said metallic in my palette. I have metallic silver as well in there. And just like I did with the oven, I am going to do that with the stove top as well. And I'm going to dip it in that metallic. And I'm going to go over dabbing with a Q-tip over the whole stove top as well, letting some of that black show through. And it makes it really rustic for one thing, but it really gives it the look of what a stovetop would be. So that was cool. I just keep blending. And I actually do dip. If you get too much of the metallic, you can come back in and with the black and blend some more until you have it exactly the way you would like it to look. So I think that looks good. I'm going to show you a little up close here of that wood grain. Oh my gosh, I'm loving that. And that was just, like I said, being a little heavy-handed and having it darker in some spots. So now we're going to work on the face of the structure. And I didn't want a bright yellow, but I wanted a more muted beigey brown yellow. So what I'm doing right now is I'm taking the chalk paint and maize and I'm going to go over the whole front with that yellow. And then I'm going to come back in and add some of the brown and some of the beige. And I'm just going to keep layering and layering and layering until I have that desired yellow that I was going for. Once I have that the way I want it, I grab my oven door and I do the same exact painting on the oven door. To make this look really old and rustic, I also come back in with some burnt umber and I gently just go over the edges, bringing it to the center to add just a little bit more brown, blending it in as I go. I wanted the yellow to show through it, but I didn't want it to be too bright, and adding the burnt umber gave it that look that I really, really loved. So it's just about like coming in and layering until you get that color that you love. There was a little bit of the beige coming through where I didn't quite hit it well enough with the wax when I did the brown. So I came in with burnt umber and just gently went around the trim and the front of the stovetop as well. Now I'm going to come in again, keep layering till you have that look. The cream color beige really kind of softens it a little, adds another little element to this cabinet / oven stove. And like I said, layer until you have that desired look. I also came in with the cream and the brown and really went over the oven door as well so that it had a little bit more brown to it, but it would blend in with the cabinet. Now I'm going to come in and go over the brown with some pewter and gray and silver and really make this look like a rock and stone, whatever you would like to call it. I wanted that rock. I wanted it to really go well with the rock wall behind it. So again, layer, layer, layer. I just kept coming in, adding a little bit of black, the cream, and the came in with a little bit of white, a little bit of silver, just to get that stone look. And then I also paint the bottom side of the shelf as well. My shelf was really uneven and it was really bothering me. So I came in with some small scissors and I was cutting the edges of it because I really didn't want it to fall apart. So I thought maybe I could just trim it and make it weathered looking just by cutting it inward and then maybe taking chunks out of it. That really wasn't working, but it did work as far as I could come in with my bigger scissors and really cut off those ends and make the shelf more uniform. It was really bothering me that the stone pieces were off center. So right now I'm fixing my shelf. I'm kind of splintering it, and then I will come in with bigger scissors and I will cut off that one edge, and which is fine because it actually turned out much better. It was even, and I came in and painted the bottom with a little bit of that gray, kind of muted down a little bit of the brown, and I also went on the edges that I cut. So it wasn't quite the look. I kind of wanted it to be splintery on the edges, but that wasn't working. So now it's cut, but at least it's uniform now because it really was bothering me. The shelf is looking so cute now. I'm really loving it. The bottom is really looking like stone. I'm loving how this turned out. I'm going to bring it up and show you a little closer view. So rustic country. I love the wood grain at the top. So I'm putting all my pieces back together just to make sure everything still is working together the way I want it. I'm really loving how the shelf will look on the rock wall. So now you guys got to stay tuned and come back next week. Here's a sneak peek of the finished product. Oh my gosh, the shadow box is so stinking cute. So come back next Tuesday at 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and I'll show you how I did all the little details to make this all come together. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hit that subscribe button. Leave a comment below what was your favorite so far. I can't wait to see you guys next Tuesday. Have a blessed and wonderful week. Love y'all. Bye.